Hungarian 1980, making it one of the longest running events on the current calendar, appearing continuously without a break. Some might consider it an F1 staple. Drivers are expecting a tricky session ahead. This is a challenging, twisty track with very little rest between corners. In fact, some say this winding series of turns feels more like a go-kart track than a Grand Prix circuit. McLaren can boast the most wins on this circuit with 11 victories in all. We may not expect them to add to that total this weekend, but at this track with its unique characteristics, European summer, so make sure you're packing shade and sunscreen. It's likely to get hot out there this weekend. Temperatures can reach well over 30 degrees outside, so just imagine how sweltering it must be in those cockpits. This very venue was the site of heartbreak in 1997. Damon Hill and a vastly inferior
Hello and welcome to F1 of season 12 of ERO. I am your host, Darius Mazahari, and we are here today with 16 drivers. I need to make a party! 1 second. There we are. I need you to make a party, so the other drivers come. 16 drivers on the grid today, as we said. And there will be a variety of strategies here, as I'm getting DMs asking, can we go out in inters? Which you can for Q1. It's not penalisable. And I'm just checking the stream just to see how we sound. And the first car out on the track, it looks to be the Red Bull, potentially of Rafael Bielder. No, it's Giovanni, because I'm silly. And as we said, a few drivers out on the intermediate tyres. Canton Dobra, I'm not sure who you are. Carlos Torres, Harrison Holmes, and Giovanni. Giovanni doing a little skid there at a turn 1. And let me just find out Canton Dobra's name. It's been a long week. So Alejandro Hera is Canton Dobra. Welcome, sir. As everyone is coming out now, but it looks of it, no, just 4 drivers at the moment. And we're not going to follow Giovanni, just because this will be an absolute joke of a lap on intermediate tyres. So, well, everyone who's out at the moment is on bloody intermediate tyres. Half the grid is. As we are doing full qualifying tonight. Special event number 2 of season 12 of ERO. And only 16 drivers on the grid, so that means only one person will get knocked out. So yeah, no one really going to push too hard here in Q1. Giovanni is coming around the final corner, turn 14 here, and to start their first hot lap attempt of this qualifying session on the run down to turn 1 here, breaking around the 100 meter board, dropping the car into normally into third gear, yeah, just about. Getting a pretty good exit there, all things considered, considering he is on intermediate tyres. Coming around turn 2 now. Long swooping left-hander with the camera going against you into turn 3. Famously for Daniel Ricciardo losing the car here in 2017, I think it was, or 2016. Anyway, up to turn 4, usually known as the turn of death in the last game. It can be quite difficult to manage, especially if you're invalidating your hot laps. Turn 5 and a long swooping right-hander into turn 6 and 7, which are the chicane here. You do not want to take too much curb, and then extending the track perfectly here as Giovanni has done into the S's of 8 and 9. Finally now coming up to 10. 11 is this tricky right-hander, which can be taken a variety of ways, which is the bridge between Sector 2 and Sector 3. Turn 12, overtaking zone here for some drivers who are brave. That Ferrari needs to get out of the way, which it has, into the long double apex left-hander hairpin of turn 13. Where traction can be an issue here, depending on tyre wear. And finally into turn 14, again another traction heavy zone, extending the track as much as possible. And that's going to be a 121.5 for our first driver across the line. Now, can we actually follow someone who's on a lap with decent tyres? As we see Ville Pironin in the beautiful scarlet red Ferrari, who had a very good morning today in Australia, having their first 1-2, their 86th one. No, sorry, was it their 25th or 86th? I think it was their 25th 1-2 in history. As Ville will naturally set a purple sector 1, considering he's on the faster tyre compound. As Carlos Torres goes faster than Giovanni on the intermediates, coming into turns 6 and 7 here into the chicane we go. Really not extending the track as much as we saw Giovanni do here into the S's now. And that car looks so beautiful, doesn't it? And he's going to obviously set a purple sector 2 time as well. Because there's only one of a few drivers on the intermediates. But this time itself will probably be enough to get into Q2. So one run, nurture the tyres, literally walk them back to the pits. And, ooh, what's that? McLaren needs to get out of the way, it did. Walk the car back to the pits, and then that's your qualifying done if you're a Vilzu, and that's going to be in the 116s. Lovely stuff, 116.18. And there is a McLaren, I think that's Matthew Bassett directly behind him. It is. Matthew got a small bit of a toe there, but it doesn't really matter because he's on the intermediate tyres. Nobody getting out of the 21s at the moment for the intermediate runners. The full qualifying brings an interesting aspect to strategy here because, first of all, you have to wonder what tyre allocation you're going to go for. You're going to go for the softer or the medium, the balanced one. And with that, you usually, I think you'll get 4 sets, as Matthew invalidates, unfortunately for him. You usually get 5 sets, in qualifying of the soft. One is included for the race, but /Q3. As we see a Haskell very wide there in the distance as Panos goes through turn 12 and into 13. So normally, if you want to have the optimal strategy here, you'd want to use 1 set of soft tyres in Q1. Then use them again at the start of Q2. Panos is like on an ice rig at the moment. He's just skating all around the place. But that's good enough for P3, even with all the skids happening. It's very hard to say what a knockout time can be here for Q1 because, because everyone's on the slick, not on the slicks. So, as we were saying, you want to use the scrub set at the start of Q2 and then a new set at the end. And again, the same thing before. Q3. I think only 2 runs is the maximum you can actually get in Q3. As Matthew will go around again. Attempt to set a lap. As we see Enes Safari starting his flying lap on a set of slick tyres, so we will ride on board with him as he goes to turn 1. Turn 1 can be very tricky if you've got DRS, as the DRS is kind of useless and it just leads to wheel spin, to be honest. Lovely extension of the track there, going through turns 2 and 3. Up to turn 4 we go. A lot of elevation changes in the Hungaroring in this 4-kilometer long circuit. Normally 70 laps in a race. That looks like a McLaren. I think it's Matthew getting really out of the way. Or that's Zach Veermack. Extending the track as much as possible as I can. You're going into the S section. That's fine. Into 4th gear, holding it there. That's also okay. Bit of a wobble there at a turn 9, I think it is. Now into 11 we go. Keeps the car within the white lines, and that will be a purple sector 2 for Ennis. Impressive showing last night in F2. Through 12, up to 13. You want to kiss the curb on the outside before sending the car in as deep as possible with as much turn as you can imagine. Into 14 we go, avoiding the wall there naturally enough, getting good traction out of the exit, and that's going to be in the 16s. 15.9, I beg your pardon, and that is surely enough to get him into Q2. Now, is it Mr. David Clark joining us? Is definitely enough time as Crystal is going out now for his lap. Jean Gooding, fellow admin, good lad. I'm going to see Alejandro now on his flying lap, first flying lap, as he goes around turn 2 and into turn 3. Turn 3, this turn can be quite tricky later on in the race when tyre wear becomes a factor. Just can lose the car here. Into turn 4 again, easy spot to invalidate the lap as we saw Matthew Bassett do. You want to avoid that yellow sausage curve on the left there in turn 5. Takes a lot of curve there in the chicane 6 and 7. But again, extending the track, as we've seen Giovanni do, lovely stuff. These drivers are at the top of their game at the moment. They know the Hungaroring at the back of their hands. Normally 70 laps in real life, 25 laps today. As track evolution is massive between Q1 and Q3. Over a second and a half can be gained. Just true to evolution. And that will be a 1:15.865 for Alejandro as he goes P1 in this Q1 session. Points on offer today in Q3, a total of 12 points for P1. So possible 23 points today to obtain if you win this race, which is 4 more than the normal amount. Or 3 more, 1 or 2. As we're going to look there for just currently 3 drivers now on a hot lap. Zach Veermack's about to finish his, and he sets a 1:16.4. With Kalle Pukkanen now finishing his lap as well, which is going to be, looks like in the 15s. Is it? No, just shy in the 16s, but that's good enough for P3 as well. Kalle teammates with Ennis in IRT. I'm not sure Ennis is in IRT. As Harrison Holmes now sets the fastest lap in this first qualifying session of 1:15.708. What can Raphael Bilder do now? The Frenchman in Sector 2, about to hit the S section. Interestingly, takes the car in 5th gear. There's a lot of people elect to take it in 4th at the exit of the S's. Drops the gear into turn 11. Now coming into 12, hits that apex quite nicely, avoids the inside curve. Now, very slowly, in slow, out fast is the mantra for racing. And Raphael is showing us how that is done today. Coming across turn 14 now, and that will be in the 16s, 1:16.9. Will that be safe? As Crystal setting a 1:16.1 for P5. Great stuff from you, Jean. Not the skill issue we thought you had. As Matthew, it looks like he's come out in the softs. William Carson yet to come out, and Otto Sonfield yet to come out as well. Sorry, Otto's out in the track. What am I saying? As we see him now coming up to turn 11, and his Sector 2 split will be purple as well. So Track Evolution playing a massive part now, as the McLaren of Zach Veermack getting out of the way of Otto nicely enough. No impeding there. Extending the limits out of the exit at 13 as much as possible. Now 14, very close to the wall. They're lovely stuff. Again, extending the track, not as much as he could have, but anyway, that's going to be in the 1:15.8, which is good enough for P3 in Q1. Now, who do we see on the lap? Well, Raphael's surely not on the lap anyway, he's on an in-lap. Where is Panos? Panos is coming out again. As Harrison said he might end himself after that lap. It's the lap of his career. Good stuff from you, sir. Panos Nikolaidis, everyone's favourite Greek fella in ERO. Quite a smart guy too, if I do say so. As he is in Sector 2 at the moment. So only 2 drivers left yet to set a lap. And they will be coming out in the next minute and a half, I would say. Only 1 driver at risk as well today, so as Harrison has elected to retire from the session, I'm assuming he's pretty safe at that time. I don't think a lot of these drivers are going to come back out. As Ross Smith has elected to come back out. That puts Panos P5 at the moment. Good stuff from him. So the question is here, as only 1 driver is being eliminated, do you gamble if you are in the bottom 6? Do you come out again? Do you stay in? What do you do? We see Giovanni coming out again, naturally enough, and Matthew Bassett, who looks to be coming out in the medium compound tyre now. Bold strategy from him as he begins his lap. Does well not to invalidate there, went very wide. Well, let's see what Matthew can do, as William Carlson is now finally coming out, gracing us with his presence, as Julian Peters goes fastest now at a 1:15.3. Track Evolution obviously playing a clear part there, as I'm not sure what's happening now at the moment, as Matthew has let his teammate pass. Obviously wants to warm up the tyres yet again, or maybe he invalidated, I'm not sure. Let's just check his telemetry. Well, he's got a full battery. Yeah, and William coming out as well, and he is being raced by the other McLaren. So going to be a bit of a queue here for drivers' final lap attempts. Majority of the field are coming out. Raphael believing he is safe and not electing to not do so. Ross Smith, I think, is on a lap at the moment. He is indeed. He's a second up in his time. True sector 1. Now, coming up to turn 5 here. Can be a traction heavy zone if you get a bit giddy on the throttle. Into the chicane we go. Turns 6 and 7 as we've said previously. I want more helicopter cam in this game. It'd be nice in the next game if they get the spectators an option to choose the camera. It would give us a bit more freedom to mess around. Anyway, Ross 3 seconds up in his time. Over 3 seconds, and that's a purple sector 2 as well. Looking to guarantee his spot into Q2. Coming through turn 13, here's a nice little angle. Up to turn 14 we go. And that's how you do it. That's going to be in the 15s. Good enough for P3 at the moment, a 1:15.723. I think that's pretty safe now. As Matthew sets a 1:34.9. William Carlson now on a lap. One of the quicker drivers in the tier. Takes a lot of curve though in the exit of 7. Has a driver in the way. Gets out of the way. Looks at the Red Bull of Raphael. Now, up to turn 11 we go. What can we do here? Pretty solid from that. Does not invalidate. Giovanni is the fastest lap now with a 1:15.3. Evolution being a massive part here. Taking a lot of curve there on 12. Making his own apex basically. And a tiny bit wide there, but it's okay for the moment. Kisses the curb nicely there. In between turns 13 and 14, and through 14 we go now. A bit wide again. That's going to cost him a tiny bit of time, but he should be okay. 1:15.2, and that is the fastest lap of Q1 so far by Mr. William Carlson. Great stuff from you. I want to see you and Ennis fight later on. As Julian Peters is now retired, believing he is safe, as every driver is out apart from Jean. Crystal could be the driver at risk here as it stands. At the moment it is Carlos Torres who's in the elimination zone, but he has 4 seconds nearly up in his time, setting a purple sector 2. As we said before, track evolution massive. Raphael has lost it. He's lost it at turn 3. Unfortunately for him. Ross Smith retiring from the session. Carlos Torres going into P4. Excuse me. Now Matthew Bassett is the driver at risk. And it looks like that will be Matthew Bassett's day as well, as he's going very slowly. No, I beg your pardon. He's been quicker than Raphael. I'm just not paying attention. I'm quite tired. And that will be the end of qualifying. I do not expect anybody else to set new times. If they can dive into the pits, they will. As everyone's starting to retire from the session now. And that's all she wrote, folks. Raphael Bilner, unfortunately for him, is knocked out of Q1. And that will mean a break for him for the next 25 minutes or so. I think it's longer actually, it's like 27 minutes. We've got another half an hour qualifying, oh my god. And drivers elected to come into the pits and go over the line, as that will give them another lap of tyre degradation.
This track with its unique characteristics and unusual turns of fate. Anything can happen. We've been coming here to the Hungarian since 1980, making it one of the longest running events on the current calendar, appearing continuously without a break. Some might consider it an F1 staple.
And that will be Q1. Fastest driver is the Swedish duos of Otto Sonnefeld and William Carlson, going P1 and P2 respectively. Only 6,000ths of a second separating them. Very, very good stuff. Giovanni on P3, Julian Peters P4, Carlos Torres, Harrison Holmes, Ross Smith, Alejandro, I can't remember his second name, sorry. In P8, Enes Safiri, Vilzu in P10, Zach Viermak, Panos, Calais, Jean and Matthew Bassett round out the rest of the survivors, with only Raphael Bilner getting eliminated out of Q1, unfortunately for him. On to Q2 we go, and we will be back in a moment.
Austria's Red Bull Ring. Hungary itself is a landlocked country with no coastal borders. This is a quirk shared with only one other country on the F1 calendar, Austria. We're about 20 kilometers north of Budapest.
So, we are back for Q2. Now the stakes become real. 5 drivers are going to be eliminated in the next 13 minutes and 40 seconds. And we see William Carlson coming out straight away now. No messing around this time. With Matthew again coming out in the medium tyres. Ross Smith is a bit surprised with his time. As Harrison Holmes said, he got mad heartburn trying to yarn down a Big Mac. Well, I don't know. Didn't realise Big Macs gave heartburn, but anyway. William will be the first driver to set a lap. We're going to have a bit of traffic behind him, and they need to slow down if they want to build up a nice little gap. You see him as he has gone now to start his flying lap attempt. It's first of Q2 and the first driver to do so, going around turn 14. On the only real main overtaking zone here, apart from turn 12, is into turn 1 as the DRS assisted overtake. As it's a double DRS zone with one detection point, the driver behind will always get DRS. Yeah, without having to go through another detection. But anyway, coming up down to turn 3 we go. Sharp decreasing gradient here, similar to Monaco in that aspect where you're getting a lot of ups and downs. Naturally, purple sector 1 manages to not invalidate and keep it within the white lines. Around turn 5, now there's a Ferrari in the way here. Into turn 6 and 7 chicane we go. That's nice and clean there. Keep again extending track limits as much as possible while keeping it valid. As the Ferrari nicely gets out of the way there. Into turn 11 we go, kisses the curb on the outside, that's okay. Manages to keep the guy again in the white lines, not invalidating. That's going to be purple sector 2 as he's the first driver setting a hot lap in Q2. Now into turn 13 we go, a tiny bit wide here, but that will give him a better exit speed and better traction. Up to turn 14, the final corner. Staying track limits there nicely, and that's going to be in the 1:15.198. Times are really dropping now. Great stuff from him. And right behind him is Ross Smith with a 1:16.182. Almost a second behind William. So will Ross be one of the drivers at risk here in Q2 to be eliminated? We're going to see the Alpine of Carlos Torres, and he sets a 1:15.4. Now next is the Haas of Harrison Holmes. Harrison sets a 1:26.8, but he's going around again. Next is the Ferrari of Vilzu, who is starting his lap as well. I'll check if I had the lap with it. As Julian Peters is now going around. And he's going to be in the 15s as well, but it looks at a 1:15.149. Wow, great stuff from him. And those times look safe enough for Q2, I think. As the way things stand. Nobody out in the inters now. With Matthew again invalidating, so he's going to start again. Because the battery is low on my controller, which is a bit of a skill issue on my controller. And the only driver on a lap at the moment is Vilzu. Coming around turn 12 we go. Bit of traffic in front of him, but it's okay. It will not hamper him at all. Really touching. You don't want to touch that grey curb on the inside there. It will depress the car and cause a loss of traction, which costs you valuable time. And this is going to be in the 16s, I think. Yeah, a 1:16 flat nearly. Ennis with a 1:16.004 as well. I don't think those times are going to be enough, boys, and you're going to have to go out again by the looks of it. Panos now on a lap. What can he do? He's just entering Sector 2. He's midway through Sector 2 now at the moment. In the beautiful racing green Aston Martin. And coming up to turn 13 now, the penultimate corner on the Hungaroring of the 4.1 kilometer stretch of track. This is Lewis Hamilton's favourite track on the calendar. He compares it to a go-karting track, likes it to that, same as Fernando Alonso. As Panos goes P5, a lot of drivers love this track. The tyre degradation is quite high here though, and temperatures can be an issue. But they all seem to love it. Always in the middle of the year, in the middle of the year, around July time. This is part of the summer part of the calendar. The European circuits, usually this and Silverstone and Zandvoort will be near each other, and eventually coming to a climax of Monza, where then afterwards they'll come to Singapore. With the final third of the season comes to a stretch. Obviously a bit different this year, as Japan is actually in 2 weeks' time now in real life. So they're doing Japan quite early in the season. Usually due to the weather issues, because it's monsoon season when Japan is on. Suzuka, another amazing figure of 8 track. Shivano is now on a hot lap, and he has set a purple sector 1. What can he do? As Harrison Holmes, I'm assuming, has let Carlos Torres through. But we will pay attention to Giovanni and see what he can do now. As Haas gets out of the way nicely, he starts mowing the grass, doing the stewards or the gamekeeper's job for them in Hungary. Coming up to turn 12 here, and he's invalidated. That's very unfortunate for him, because it looked like to be such a quick lap, and he's probably just going to dive into the pits now in frustration. Yeah, very unfortunate stuff there for you, sir. Alejandro, what can you do? You said a 116.5 apparently, but must have invalidated. Crystal, purple sector 2 for Jean Goring. What's going on here now? Jean, who won the first race in F2 this season, wasn't around for the middle 2, and then yesterday, I don't know where he finished. Wasn't P1 though. Wow, he's going to set a 1:15.6 for P5. That's very good stuff, very good stuff. Matthew Bassett finally electing to put on the soft compound tyres, and he's actually lost the car. We've just tuned in at the right time to see that accident. What has happened there, Matthew? Seems to have lost into turn 11. Unfortunately for him, that is a disaster, and that will be the end of his qualifying session now. So now 4 drivers at risk, apart from Matthews. He's already gone. Just under 6 minutes left in our qualifying session for Q2. Giovanni and Otto yet to set a time, as Giovanni invalidated, unfortunately for him. If you're Julian Beaters and William Carlson, I think you're going to feel good about yourself now. You're going to feel quite safe. As it looks like, I think Harrison Holmes and Carlos Torres went even faster there. And we're seeing quite a few drivers in the lap. As William Carlson goes even faster now, saying 3/10 between himself and the rest of the field. Great stuff for him, and we are finally into the 1:14s. So, knockout time here, I'm guessing, is going to be somewhere around 1:15.7. Or maybe even quicker, maybe even 1:15.4. Somewhere in that veil. Pole time for F3 yesterday. Pole time yesterday for F3 was in the 1:15.1s, I think. So we're already faster than that. We didn't see F2's time. Anyway, Ross Smith, believing he is at risk, which he indeed is coming out and setting a lap now. In Sector 2 we go. The full qualifying format can be exciting, especially when you got a full grid. It lets drivers think of something different than the usual short qualifying session and then 50% race. So, and as Ross has actually set a purple sector 2, he's up 6/10 in his time. With just under 4 minutes to go now. So a few of the drivers will be coming out in the next minute and a half or so. And what can Ross do here? Come around the final corner, hasn't lost any traction there. Lovely stuff, no wheel spin. That's going to be the 115s, 115.3. Now, I think that's safe. We will see. It doesn't look like Alejandro will be coming out, from what we can ascertain. As Panos believes he is not safe, and he is coming out now for another run. Ennis as well, currently 6/10 up nearly on his time as he enters into Sector 3. As Carlos Torres has had enough of Q2 in Hungary and has said, I'm safe. He just made that statement to the world. Ennis 6/10 up, what can he do? Can he get into the 115.3s or 115.2s? And for him, that's going to be a 115.0. Lovely stuff. Improves by 9/10. Massive improvement in that last sector, over 3/10. Good stuff from him. And that surely is enough to be safe. Now, Giovanni still yet to set a time, and we will ride on board with him as it's quite a rapid sector 2 coming around turn 14 now. Lovely extension of the track there, and that's going to be in the 14s, is it? It's just shy of the 14s, 115.023. Rapidly dropping times now at the moment. So the 115.3 or 4 that we said, it's not guaranteed to be safe anymore. Vilzu, Zach Viermak, Panos, and Otto Stonfield are all at risk. Obviously, Matthew Bassett is already out of qualifying due to losing the front tyre in turn 5, as there's a yellow flag in sector 1. I'm not sure what for. Anyway, Panos now starting one of his final attempts. If he invalidates early, he will be a chance to charge the battery and go again. What can we see from him? As he crosses the line between the sector 1 timing line, he is marginally up in his time by 600s, just shy of 700s in a second. Coming into sector 2 now, his teammate lets him past. Alejandro is warming up his tyres for his final lap. And the Red Bull of Giovanni has actually went P2. Good stuff from him. Brings him out of the danger zone. And that puts... well, it's still the same 5 basically. Giovanni is retired from the session as well, feeling he is safe. Ooh, so we're going to see Panos, then we're going to cut directly to Zach Viermak afterwards, and Panos sets a 115.5. Will that be enough? Now on to Zach Viermak, who's currently 7/10 up on his time. Can he get himself out of the danger zone? With a 116.1 does not improve, and it looks to be the end of his qualifying session. Unfortunately for him, stays P13. Otto about to start his final lap here with 30 seconds to go in this session for drivers to really push on and get to the line. Harrison Holmes not believing he is safe in P8 at the moment. He's going to go around again. As Carlton now retires in the session, naturally enough, no need to go out again. And then there's a Mercedes. I think that's a Crystal, is it? It is a Crystal. He's going to go around again. Another AlphaTauri of Ross Smith. I don't think he's going out again, does he? He is going to go around again. Julian Peters also retiring from the session. There are 4 drivers electing to think they are safe. Ennis's qualifying is done. Zach Viermak has retired as well. Now only 2 drivers left to lose, as we have lost the bottom 3 already. Oh, it didn't set a time, unfortunately for him. Panos in the pits, that is his qualifying done. Vilzu as well. Vilzu, the driver at risk. Can his teammate knock him out? Kalle Pukinen is up in his time marginally, and that would be enough to knock out his teammate. And right behind Kalle is Crystal. Jean having a chance to try and escape the danger zone. Is Panos going to be at risk here from these 2 drivers improving? As Crystal is actually invalidated, and that's going to be his qualifying finish for him. Unlucky for you, sir. Kalle, a bit of a wobble in turn 13. They're coming into 14 now, as we see the Haas of Harrison Holmes going into the pits. Around the final corner he comes, doesn't extend the track as much as he could have, and that's at a 1:15.5, and he knocks out his teammate out to qualifying. Oh la la. Oh la la, and that is qualifying done and dusted. For Q2 anyway. Unfortunate ending there for the bottom 5. Matthew and Otto not setting a time even, due to some chaos that happened. The rest of the field are safe. Harrison Holmes saying he's playing it safe. And that will round out Q2. So our final 10 drivers going into Q3 are William Carlson, Giovanni, Julian Peters, Enes Safari, Carlos Torres, Hindex, which is Ross Smith, Alejandro Harrison Holmes, Kalle Pukinen, and Panos Nikolaidis. Kalle knocking out Vilzu as the last driver to cross the line. Very dramatic stuff. We will be back with Q3 in a moment.
In all the many decades of coming to the Hungarian, the circuit has only seen one Hungarian driver start their home race. Zoltán Baumgartner raced in both the 2003 and 2004 races for Jordan and Minardi, respectively. This is one of the trickiest circuits for overtaking, though major changes to the pit straight and turn 1 in 2003, which lengthened the track by over 10%, have improved things tremendously.
And we are back. 10 drivers left. 12 minutes to determine who will be on pole position and gain 12 very valuable championship points. As the first driver out is Giovanni in the Red Bull, coming out nice and early when the track is clear to set his first lap in this third qualifying session. The end is near for the full quali in the Hungaroring. Thank God, says me. Now only 10 drivers left. With Harrison Holmes, as you said, playing it safe. Carlson, I think he thinks he's cooking. As Harrison says to Otto that he's very sorry, so something might have happened between them that we have missed. Interesting enough. As Ross Smith, I beg your pardon, says that he wasted a set of soft tyres there at the end of Q2 for nothing, and he's probably going to have to use them again now for this final qualifying session. And unfortunately, the game doesn't tell us if the tyres are scrubbed or not, but we'll just have to assume the majority of these people coming out in these tyres are indeed on scrub sets. Track evolution we're expected to be massive now, with the pole time projected to be in the low 14s. After Carlson saying a 14.8 at the end of Q2. Giovanni, first driver across the line to start his final run, or first run in the final qualifying session. And now he has an Alfa Romeo and a Mercedes ahead of him, but he won't catch them, I don't think. Or if he does, they'll just get out of the way. Coming up to turn 4 now with the crossing over between Sector 1 and Sector 2, 27.0, that's not too shabby. Now, along the wrong sweeping right-hander of turn 5, the Alfa Romeo gets nicely out of the way there. Good job in through 6 and 7. It doesn't have to take too much curve, that's quite nice. Mercedes also getting out of the way there, good job. That was of Enes Safari. Now, going to turn 11 and the bridge between sector 2 and sector 3 at 53.436 is quite quick as well. Anything underneath a 54 is usually considered fast here for a normal driver. As we come through turn 13 now, long sweeping right-hander uses as much of the track as possible to get as much traction, and on the exit, turn 14 we go, again extending the track quite nicely, and that's going to be in the 14s already, I think. It's a 14.824, good start to this third qualifying session. The track has ramped up massively. Big developments here. We saw drivers in the high 16s, low 17s, now we're seeing them in the high 14s. Great stuff, boys and girls, great stuff. It's Sunday evening, I'm tired. Next across the line is Kalle Pukinen, setting a 1:15.642. Good stuff from you. Panos Nikolaidis, the next driver crossing over the line after Ross Smith, who sets a 16 flat. As we see Panos going through turn 14 here, and he's going to set in the 15s as well, is it? A 15.64 for provisional P3. Next behind him is Harrison Holmes in the Haas, and they are going to start their lap. Whoopsie daisy. And we see the other AlphaTauri, William Carlson, about to start his lap. Next across the line, I'm pretty sure of it, is Alejandro. And as he comes around turn 14, this is going to be in the 15s as well, is it? Yes, 15.7 for provisional P4. Good stuff, good stuff. Hera, Alejandro Hera. I beg your pardon for forgetting your name. As Giovanna's already back in the pits, Julian Peters has went provisional P2. Good stuff from him. Ennis with a 1:15.3 as well. The Ferrari Kalle Pukinen also back into the pits. Now, what can William Carlson do? He's a bit of ways away from sector 3. We will follow with his teammate Ross Smith, who's invalidated, and he's into the pits as well. Unfortunately for him, Alejandro Harris is validated, and Panos is also into the pits, so most drivers finishing their first runs now. Carlos Torres in the pits as well, hasn't come out yet. William Carlson here, the man who everybody thinks will be on pole at this rate, as he's been very quick these first two qualifying stints. What can he do as he comes around the final corner here? Extends the track as much as possible there, that's very good, and that's a 1:14.6. to be 2/10 clear of Giovanni and the rest of the field. So, not many drivers left out on the track. 4 drivers in total, 3 now. As William is on their way back into the pits. And it's just Harrison Holmes, I think. By his lonesome. But you've got to be quick here because there's not a lot of time in this qualifying session. Only 12 minutes. That's realistically only 2 runs. 3 if you're very, very quick, but you have to be pushing the whole time. Harrison's red light is blinking at the back of his car, which indicates he has no battery left. Will we see him dive into the pits? We will indeed. And that will ramp up the first hot laps of this Q3 session. So, every driver setting a lap apart from Carlos and Harrison. As we see, speaking of William, driving back into it as well. So we're going to see nothing probably happen there for the next 2 minutes or so. Hold on, what's this? No, that's just William. Back onto the pits.
This circuit is often called the Dust Bowl, and with good reason. Surrounded by elevated drivers. The Danube River separates the Budapest city on the west, with its hills and historic architecture and monuments, from the eastern Pest area, with modern city living, transport hubs, and commercial districts. Hungary traditionally hosts the last race before Formula One takes its annual summer break. In 2020, however, due to a remodeled calendar in response to the global pandemic, Hungary took the third slot on the calendar in a jam-packed season. In all the many decades of coming to the Hungaroring, the circuit has only seen 1 Hungarian driver start there
as we were just waiting there for any driver just to come out, we'll start seeing them come out in the next minute or so. I think they're all going to come out at the same time here.
This very venue was the site of heartbreak in 1997. Damon Hill and a vastly inferior Arrows Yamaha overtook Michael Schumacher to lead the race. It would have been a first win for the Arrows team if the car hadn't stuck in third gear on the final lap.
As Ross Smith says, he's on a wet setup.
After Monaco, the Hungarian is the slowest racetrack on the F1 calendar. It's also only the
And the next 45 seconds, I'd say we'll start seeing bums come out onto the seats.
You might want to expect the unexpected come race day. In the last 20 seasons, the winner
There's a lull here at the moment, nothing really happening.
championship 6 times. This is a real opportunity.
So, just to recap, hopefully there's not too many safety cars, otherwise I'll have worn out all my content for the actual race itself. As we finally see a driver coming out onto the track, and that looks like the Alpine of Carlos Torres, who wants to get on with it as he hasn't set a time yet. Closely following him, it looks to be Ross Smith, I think. No, it looks to be William. William is also out now early. And we will follow with Carlos as he begins to warm up his tyres for his final lap attempt in this Q3 session of F1. As Harrison Holmes says, his headset is disconnected now. Rose went through it all this qualifying session. He said heartburn, he said a Big Mac, he said it had disconnected headset. What hasn't he had? Ooh. As Carlos is about to start his last flying lap here. With only 1 minute to go in the session, drivers need to really speed up now as every driver is out on the track. As here we go, Carlos Torres hoping to be better than P9 at the authenticate. Beg your pardon. Carlos now looking to do better than P9. A lot of drivers are starting their flying laps now. As there's a bit of traffic in Sector 3 as everyone's just trying to make themselves a nice little gap so they can have as much clean air as possible. With the Ferrari and the Mercedes close together, they're going through turn 13. As Carlos is already invalidated, and that will be the end of his qualifying session. Unfortunately for him, disaster is struck, and the best he can do is P9. All Harrison Holmes has to do now is cross the line, basically, not invalidate, and he'll be at least P9. William Carlson now going through Sector 2. Looking to improve on his 114.6. He does not believe that is good enough for P1 here. I do not think so either, especially the way Track Evolution is playing. And he's going through Sector 2 now, through turn 11. That's going to be a purple Sector 2 for him, as Julian Peters retires from the session as well. Has he lost the car? It looks like he has in the S's of Sector 2. Here comes William Carlson through turn 13 now. Again, extending the track as much as possible while keeping within the white lines. Very clean stuff. Through turn 14 we go, hogging the inside there. Taking a lot of curb on the exit, and that's going to be a 114.523, improves by just under a tenth for the fastest lap of the race. Now, who is behind him? It looks like it's Giovanna. What can Giovanna do? He's at 14.599, just under a tenth away from being P1. He's going to be P2 at the moment. Next across the line is Ross Smith. He's at a 114.9, good enough for P4 at the moment. Next across the line is Harrison Holmes. Where can he finish up now? Harrison through turn 14. Where are we going to end up at a 114.973? Good enough for P4. Calais, 115.26. Ennis, where's Ennis? I can't see it. Oh, Ennis has gone all the way to P3. And that is the end of qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. And that is all she wrote, with William Carlson being the beneficiary of 12 championship points. Himself and Giovanni being in a world of their own in qualifying there. So just to round out our starting grid, we will have William Carlson in P1, Giovanni P2, and Safari in P3. That's a weird three that I never thought here in F1. Julian Peters P4, who retired, actually lost the car in Sector 2 at the end. Harrison Holmes P5, Ross Smith in P6, Kalle Pukkinen in P7, Panos Nikolaitis in P8, Alejandro Herrera in P9, and Carlos Torres in P10, who did not set a lap time at the end as he invalidated in his final session. As only 7 thousandths of a second separating Kalle and Panos, 13 thousandths, not even 4 hundredths separating P3 to P5. There's calls for a restart here in the chat, but I'm not entirely sure what for. As it is raining in Hungary, and that is sure as hell going to put a spanner in the works for a lot of drivers. And now we're going to have the 16 drivers back on the grid, as I'm sure the driver who was knocked out in Q3 and the drivers knocked out in Q2 will be well rested. Probably went to get something to eat, to be honest with you. David Clark, you could have had your dinner and came back in time for the race. I'm just waiting for drivers to finalise their setups, strategies, fuel allocation, and the tyres they're going to start off with. I'm assuming everybody will be changing their tyre pressures as it is a wet race. As it's raining now, it looks to be quite wet. It'll be intermediate tyres by the look of it, but we'll see how the weather evolves. And here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And it is lights out. Away we go. William Carlson gets a drive-through penalty for a jump start. That's a disastrous start for him. Giovanni and Ennis are already fighting. Ennis already got in the main. Giovanni in 2 places already. Kalle up to P6. Carlos Torres up to P8. Vils up to P10. Julian Peters now up to P2. As there's a lot, three wide into turn 1 we go. Every driver electing to start off in the intermediates is Raphael Billner already up 4 places from his disastrous start. A lot to process there. Everyone seems to have gotten through quite safe through turn 1. Good stuff from everybody, as Matthew Bassett is lagging behind it quite a bit in P16, along with John Goring in P15. Julian Peters with a great start there, up 2 positions. Raphael Billner up 4 positions. Oh, Snodfield up 4 positions as well. Crystal down 3. It's the worst, the biggest loser so far of that start, as Zach Viermak and Vilzer are fighting further down the field. Vilzer now fighting again with Raphael. Will ride on board as there's contact there between the Ferrari and the Aston Martin. Everybody looks to keep it relatively safe. No DNFs just yet, as we just saw Red Bull go miles off the track there. There are going to be time penalties today, as Kalle Pukkinen now up to P5, overtaking Harrison Holmes. Harrison closely following behind, as the Aston Martin and AlphaTauri go side by side of Ross Smith and Panos Nikolaitis, with the Alpine of Carlos Torres also getting involved here. Carlos making the move as Julian Peters is the fastest lap of the race. He's gotten to P1 now. William Carlson into the pit to surface drive through nice and early. Disaster for him now. There's a drag race here with Carlos and Ross into turn 1. Here we go. Carlos on the inside. What can he do? Can he hold the position here? He doesn't seem to be able to. He makes contact with the rear wheel of Panos' car, of Ross's car, I beg your pardon. Speaking of Panos, he's got a bird's eye view of this battle between them here. Very clean stuff from the 2 drivers here so far. Good driving standards. A bit more contact there, but it's all okay. As Carlos managing to keep the position in P5. A very impressive start for him, up 5 places. Otto as well, up 6 places. Disaster for William, down 12. The initial skirmish is now finishing up. So we've seen 3 drivers drop into the pits there. We've seen Harrison, Raphael and Vilzu. And they're going to be a while away now, waiting for a safety car to get back into this race. Julian Peters currently leading by 0.6 of a second. And Giovanni following behind, as the rain doesn't look to be getting worse. There is quite cloudy, and there is quite a bit of spray coming up here. And obviously there's no DRS to activate. And now Julian Peters even saying a faster lap of the race. It is out for me. Actually, DRS, I beg your pardon, has been enabled. Interesting enough. So that means either the track is drying or it's not all that wet. And we are probably right on the precipice of the crossover between slicks and dries. Interesting stuff here in Hungary. How will that affect things now? Will we see a driver brave enough to gamble to go onto the slicks at some point? When there's a safety car, will a driver gamble and go onto the slicks? A lot to consider here as this race develops over the next 22 laps in the Hungaroring. As there's some large gaps between the form here, as Giovanna has dropped Ennis, and Ennis is nearly a second and a half behind, along with Calais, the same delta. Carlos over a second behind Calais. However, Panos and Ross and Alejandro will all have DRS once they get to the detection point as things stand. Otto Snowfield and Matthew Bassett battling quite closely here in Sector 2. Matthew right on the gearbox of Otto here, and he might look to make a move into turn 12. He does make a dive for it. There's a lot of contact there though from Otto. Otto ends up off the track and Matthew ends up taking the position. But here comes Otto Snowfield into turn 13, side by side. Otto on the inside, Matthew on the outside. Just enough space been given. Now it's the reverse. Matthew on the inside, and that position is going to be gained by Matthew Bassett, and that skirmish is ended for now. However, Otto is going to have DRS here, and as they were fighting, Matthew's dropped out the DRS of Alejandro. And here comes Otto on the outside into turn 1. Will he get the move to stick? It doesn't look like he's going to, but he will have the better exit as he's on the outside. Not a whole lot of space been given there by Matthew, it must be said. On the border between hard racing and dirty racing, it looks to be all okay at the moment. As Harrison Holmes sits the fastest lap of the race. Zach Veermack and Jean Goring are fighting, and I don't know what's just happened there. It looks like Crystal and Zach had some kind of collision. We saw it on stream, but it looked like more like desync than anything else. Raphael and Vilzu are fighting further down for P15 as they go to turn 1. Raphael in the better here. It's almost like the DRS is just going to cause wheel spin in these wet weather conditions. Vilzu here, we're going to ride on board. He's got a bit of a lock there. Makes contact with the rear right tyre of Raphael into turn 2. Turn 3 now. Here we go. What an exit by Vilzu there. What an exit. And he is going to get this position done before turn 4. And Raphael's going to have to concede there. That was amazing stuff from them. Further up the field, we missed it. Now Giovanni has taken the lead here, with Julian Peters sitting behind. Ennis has also caught up over a second actually. And he'll have DRS. Calais without DRS. Carlos without DRS. Now we're right on board with Julian Peters as he is gaining, but not gaining enough to make a move into turn 1. The same can be said for Ennis. And Otto is into the bits, which puts Crystal up to P10. Interesting enough here, no massive DRS transforming. The biggest is just 3 cars. And Zach Veermaga also into the pits after that big shunt with Crystal in turn 2. That puts Harrison Holmes up into the point scoring positions. Now, Giovanni playing mouse in this game of cat and mouse between himself and Julian and Ennis. Ennis having a bird's eye view here of all the action. He has a bit of a wobble coming out of the chicane there, turn 7. It's clearly not dry enough yet for Slex. I don't even know why DRS has been activated. Anyway, as Zach Veermack has just come out of the pits and he has just completed obviously his wing change after that incident. We will see Giovanni now in the helicopter cam, leading the way into turn 13. Has just under a second gap, so looks like Julian will have DRS here. And Ennis and Calais now, a bit of a train beginning to form now from P1 to P4. And Carlos Torres just on the periphery of this train. He'll be gaining though, and he's probably going to use a lot of battery in this next lap to get within the 1 second so he can get to join the party. Now Calais rapidly closing in the back of Ennis here. Further midfield, Alejandro Herrera is closing in on Panos Nicolaitis, his teammate for today in the Aston Martins. And even further down the field in P14, Rafael Billner having a look at Wilzer here, trying to get the inside line, but they might be end up going 3 wide here as Otto Sonfield is also arriving on the scene. The inside line taken by Rafael Wilzer, going to have to concede the position this time. I think he's going to get the moves on, and here comes Otto Sonfield as well, and he's going to look to take Wilzer as well. Wilzer might be losing 2 positions in as many corners, and very close here from the 3 drivers. All kept reasonably clean though up to this point. Good stuff from them. And Wilzer losing 2 positions in 1 sector. That's a disaster for him. Further up the field, Giovanni has dropped Julian by over a second, and Julian's going to be exposed now to the drivers behind. Carlos Torres finally within the 1 second, and he's going to have DRS on the straight. This is a big benefit to him. Further down, Ross Smith also going to be vulnerable to Panos and Alejandro. They have DRS. And Otto, here comes Otto again. These 2 drivers have been fighting the last lap or so. And that's a late lunge into turn 12 on the inside by Otto. Will Rafael be able to respond? He will not. Further up the field, we're just going to go right on board here with Calais. As they go through turn 2 here, no major changes either on the train that's formed. However, Giovanni has dropped Julian now by nearly 2 seconds. Big difference here, and Carlos is dropping out of the DRS range rapidly here. He must have had a little wobble there in one of the turns, probably 2. Alejandro and Panos both staying within the DRS of Ross Smith. Matthew Bassett rapidly gaining though and arriving on the scene, it seems. No whiff of a safety car just yet. Harrison Holmes has a bit of work to do to catch up to William Carlson. We will be monitoring William as the race develops. Currently in P11, 4 seconds away from Crystal. As the rain seems to be easing up by the looks of it, as Ross Smith is the first driver today to get a 3-second time penalty for track limits. 3 warnings and you will get 3 seconds. Simple as that. You are allowed 2 by the game. As Alejandro dives into the pits. And he is going to be followed by William Carlson as well. So 2 drivers electing to change tyres. Now, maybe it's time for slicks. Exactly it. Alejandro onto the mediums. What will William do now? And it looks like the soft compound tyres for William. So interesting choice there. He's choosing grip over longevity. Fair enough. And Alejandro getting out just behind Harrison. Harrison managing to keep the position. But as 2 drivers have went on slicks now, we will see how this develops. Will that lead the rest of the field into changing into the soft compound tyres? Time will tell, but I do expect a lot of drivers to start diving into the pits now. So Julian Peters has dropped Giovanni quite a lot in here. And speaking of Julian Peters, he's now into the pits. Giovanni has elected to stay out for another little while longer, playing the long game here. As Zach Viermak is the second driver today to get a 3-second time penalty. Matthew Bassett also into the pits now. Both of them to go on slicks. A bit early, as it's still a bit of rain coming down. Giovanni electing to stay out a little bit longer. I think that's the correct choice for now, as the track doesn't seem to be rapidly driving up. We can see sprinkles of rain here on Giovanni's halo and the body of that Red Bull. So that leaves Ennis now in P2 for the moment, being closely followed by Calais and Carlos Torres. William Carlson getting past Rafael Milner. William throws the car into turn 1. Rafael quite closely behind. Vilzu now onto the slicks, onto the medium compound tires. Nobody electing to go onto the hards. They don't trust the lack of grip just yet. The track is obviously drying up, and their engineers will be telling them that, but is it dry enough yet where the soft compound tires are faster than the intermediates? That is the optimal question. We will see here if Julian starts rapidly gaining on Ennis, or not Ennis, sorry, Crystal, I beg your pardon, in the Mercedes. Which it looks like he is gaining. Which it was, he's gained 2/10 now so far, and we see a quartet of drivers from Ennis, Carlos, Ross, and Panos all diving into the pits. Panos will avoid the double stack, naturally enough, here, as Alejandro picks the last lap. Calais and Giovanni and Crystal all elected to stay out as well at the moment, as Carlos Torres has put on a fresh set of intermediate tyres. Is that a mistake? Interesting enough, Ennis, Ross and Panos all on the brand new medium tyres. So what's going on here? Has he made a mistake, or does he know something the rest of the field doesn't know? He will certainly have quite a lot of grip for the moment, but those tyres will start to overheat now momentarily in a few laps time, as Harrison Holmes is the first driver to put on the hard compound tyres. Otto and Raphael all on the mediums. Zach Viermack back into the pits again, assuming a change onto the hards. It will be the mediums for back. Now, does Giovanni pit? Or does he stay out? That's the question. It looks like he's heading into the pits now. Here we go. Will Julian have undercut him? That's the main question here. As he kind of drifts around the corner, Calais follows him in. Carlson gets a 3-second time penalty for track limits. Does Crystal drive into the pit lane? He does not. He elects to stay out, not thinking it's dry enough just yet. Giovanni onto the mediums. Calais onto the mediums as well. Now here comes Julian Peters around the final corner. Will he get the drop on the Red Bull of Giovanni? It doesn't look like it. Well, actually, it does look like it. What am I saying? And the undercut has worked here. Julian Peters back into P1. Well, essentially into P1. With Crystal 5.5 seconds ahead on his old intermediates. Crystal probably hoping for a safety car at this point. Carlos Torres on his fresh intermediates, which we're assuming it is a mistake. So, interesting strategies here. Can the softs go to the end? That is an interesting question. It is definitely possible. With a bit of gymnastics and tyre management, mediums are definitely the safer choice, as they will take a lot less towards the end of the race. However, it is still raining here in Hungary, so it's not exactly a dry track just yet. As now, nothing really major happening at the moment. Ennis, closest driver to anybody, and he is Giovanni. Calais is behind him, but he's outside the DRS range. Julian and Giovanni also getting very close together now. Julian closing in on Carlos Torres too. So clearly enough now, the dry tyres are faster than the wets at this point. That's what it looks like anyway, from what we can see. And for Carlos as well, because he's on a fresh set of intermediates, he's going to have to pit again, and that's going to be a disaster for him. Could have been challenging for the win today if he put the right tyres on. C'est la vie. Julian trying his best to stay within the 1 second here, so he can get DRS, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen actually, as Carlos has dropped him a tiny bit there. Giovanni, however, will have DRS if Crystal finally pits. And I think Giovanni has a chance of getting Julian here. Rapidly closing in here, as you can see. He's going to take the inside way before the braking zone. Yeah. Kind of outbrakes himself there a tiny bit though. But Guts gets the move done into P2 at the moment. And he'll be hunting down Carlos to get this move done. Further down the field, William Carlson has overtaken Crystal, as Crystal's still in the pits. Just on the exit now. And we see Vilzu and Raphael still fighting at the back of the field. Great stuff from them. 3 drivers with a penalty at the moment. Ross, William and Zach. And now Alejandro has joined the penalty party, the 4th driver today to get a time penalty for track limits. Ennis overtaking Julian Peters, as Julian has a bad exit in the chicane there at turn 7, and that's compromised him. And Calais is right behind him, waiting in the wings to get a move done. Calais getting a bit frustrated here, it looks like. He wants to get this move done nice and early. The driver's being very careful. Harrison Holmes also gets time penalty now as well for track limits. Into turn 12 we go with Calais. No move done there. He's going to wait for DRS. And Julian will not have it, as Raphael now with a time penalty. The time penalty is rapidly coming in. Big wobble there from Julian Peters on the exit of 13. And that's going to let Calais come at him with DRS here. And we expect this move to be completed here. Up to P4 we go for the Ferrari. However, it's not a done move just yet. That's pretty much done now, as Calais has the inside line. And you'll have DRS as well again. Crystal up to P10 as William is into the pits again. A bit of a strange race over for William Carlson. He will get 12 points for P1 in quali, but now he sticks on the medium compound tyres. Crystal putting on the intermediates. Maybe a mistake from him. So maybe the drivers don't actually know what the fastest tyre is at the moment, as Raphael Billner has retired in the pits. Unfortunately for him, that'll be the end of his evening. It just wasn't right for him today. He didn't get out of Q3, was the only driver not to get out of Q3, and then just didn't get a great start. Unfortunately for you. I hope to see you again in the future. Anyway, back further up the field, Carlos Torres is fighting off Giovanni for P1 at the moment. Giovanni really close to the back of him here though, as he's following him through sector 3. It looks like those mediums are a lot quicker now than the intermediates. Coming through turn 14 now, it's all about who gets the better exit in my opinion. It appears to be Giovanni, and here we go. Look at the DRS, look how powerful it is. He can even get back onto the racing line as well. That's how much time he had there. As we see Julian and Matthew both into the pits, and they will put on fresh intermediates, or fresh medium, sorry, as Crystal sets the fastest lap of the race on the intermediate tyre. That's quite interesting now. That's quite interesting. So maybe the track isn't as dry as we think it is. Maybe Carlos has done the right decision here. It's just so more he has to manage his tyres now, because the temperatures might be getting a bit hot. But Giovanni leading the way over a second now after one sector. Calais trying to hold within the DRS range of Ennis for the battle for P3 at the moment. But P1 to P4 is wide open at the moment. Either of these 4 drivers will win this race at this time. Obviously their money will be on Giovanni with 10 laps to go, but it's not a guarantee by any means. Ross Smith closing into the back of Alejandro Herrera. Both drivers with a penalty, so they'll be looking to bridge make a bit of a gap there between themselves and the next driver below, which is Panos Nicolaitis. As Alejandro has a bit of a wobble there in turn 13. Into 14 we go. Who gets the better exit here? I'm assuming Ross will get this move done with the assisted DRS. Here he comes. Gaining. Does he have enough track to make the move complete? Brakes before the braking zone there. Nice and early. Assists are pretty good though. Space given. That's Fight Clean Racing's Panos dives into the bits and he puts on a set of fresh intermediates. Ross Smith up to P5. And that looks to be Zach Piermak, who I'm assuming has lost his front wing. And that has brought out the first safety car, or virtual safety car, of the day. Zach losing his front wing, as we said, as suspected. BSC deployed. That will benefit Vilzer big time, as he puts on soft tyres. So driver's not really sure what's faster, softs or intermediates. Slicks or wets. Which one is it? Drivers have to be careful not to get a drive-through penalty here, adhering to the Delta. As we've seen in Canada last week, there was a lot of chaos with Deltas in every tier, not just in F5. So yeah, that race is temporarily suspended, which I think is music to the ears of Giovanni, as he's now got a 2-second lead. As speaking of drive-thrus, Julian Peters has gotten one just now, and that's a disaster for him, with 9 laps to go. Speeding under the Delta as we predicted somebody would. Unfortunate for him. Lovely shot there though. Zach Piermak into the pits again for a fresh set of softs. He's being lapped by the field. Ennis rapidly closing into the back of Carlos Torres now, looking to get that P2 here. Julian into the pits to serve his drive-through penalty. Matthew Bassett up to 8 and Panos up to 9, Otto to 10th as a result of that. And looks like Harrison Holmes will overtake him as well. Ennis really has to sit close now with Carlos. Has to stay within the white lines. They're trying not to get any warnings, so you don't want to get a penalty at this point in the race. And this squabbling between Ennis and Carlos is going to work wonders for Giovanni, because as they're going to be fighting later on in the lap, he's going to get a chance to pull away here, and he could even pull out up to a 3-second gap, I think. Calla waiting in the wings for any mistakes by the drivers in front. As Ross has seemingly dropped Alejandro out of DRS, and Julian's day goes from bad to worse. Now he gets a 3-second time penalty for his troubles as well, with a total of 6 drivers having a time penalty in this race. Ennis has a moment and drops down to P4. Calais up to P3 we go. No driver with DRS either, so it must have been a big wobble from Ennis that we had missed there, unfortunately. Giovanni, nearly 3 seconds the gap, as we said he would have. Great stuff from him, being very consistent all race long, bringing home the bread. Panos within DRS and Matthew Bassett here. As speaking of Panos, it's the fastest lap of the race on the intermediate tires. The intermediates are clearly faster at this point, but not close enough to make the move into turn 1. He will have to stay behind unless he can get the move done here. That'll be the end of his attack for another 2/3 of the lap. He's refusing to give this up here. He's trying to stay as close as possible to Matthew. As now Vilzer sets the fastest lap of the race on the soft compound tyres. So, it really is on the definition of crossover at the moment. Still lightly raining here in the Hungaroring, so it's very hard to tell. As Crystal now unfortunately gets a 3-second time penalty. However, it will not play a massive difference as Matthew is over 3 seconds away at the moment. So if things were to finish right now, he would finish P7. However, he was looking at a P6 or even a P5 finish. Anyway, further up the field, Calais closing in on Carlos Torres here. Looking to make the move maybe in a lap's time or 2 laps time. Loads of battery left for both drivers. So Calais has to pick a spot. He's only going to probably get 1 or 2 opportunities to overtake Carlos. But look at him gaining here. Look how faster the mediums look than the intermediates at this point. Those intermediates are pretty worn as well, I'd say. Not many wet patches on the track now. The track doesn't seem to be drying by any means. There doesn't seem to be any big puddles. Further down the field, William Carlson and Harrison Holmes are fighting for P11. And Ennis has been absolutely dropped by Calais. Obviously the tyre deck has affected him worse than it has affected Calais. Over 4 seconds the gap now. So this is the main fight on the track as Giovanni has also dropped Carlos. There's a yellow flag in sector 1 and that looks to be Julian Peters and he's locked the car. That's going to bring out the safety car very late in the race. Now I assume everybody pits here. Giovanni thinking about it and he elects to dive into the pits. Smart decision from him. If you're Panos here though, do you jump into the pits? That's an interesting predicament. The same with, well, Zachary Mack's been lapped, so. Softs on for Giovanni. Okay, so the top 5, top 6. I'm assuming Crystal will follow suit. Yeah, he will. Now, what does Matthew Bassett do? A bit of a dodgy pit entry there from him, but we won't say anything about it. Panos, it's Julian who's having such a promising day, unfortunately. Now, every driver from the top 10, top 11, all in the pits, as we're going to have a 3-lap shootout here. And Zach Viermack getting an opportunity. No, he's not going to get an opportunity to unlap himself. That's very, very unlucky. Every driver is pit. And all onto the soft compound tires. So if you don't have a penalty, this is a great spot to be in. Ross, Alejandro, Crystal and Matthew all having a pretty rough year, along with William and Harrison. Zach is in his own astral plane at the moment, it must be said. 6 laps to go. And then I can rest in peace. Ross Smith apologising to Panos for lap 1. Ross, you're meant to be driving an F1 car, mate, not texting. As we are coming up to the final portion of this race, Crystal diving into the pits. Has he elected again to go on a fresh set of softs, or intermediates? Very interesting from him. So again, John believing the track is not dry enough yet. And never will be. The intermediates can do some damage here. The safety car will be in this lap, and we will have 3 laps of racing remaining. We're just waiting on Vils at the moment, Ville, to approach the pack, and then we'll get the message as we go through turn 11. Across the time line, the safety car will be with Giovanni to lead us on this restart here. Now, the Dutchman, what can you do? When will you decide to go? As he's already started to slow down in the back to let the safety car go into the pit lane. With Zach Viermack really Zach has to get out of the way quite quickly here and just let the pack get on with it. Yeah. And it looks like Giovanna's already gone before the final corner. Now what is Zach going to do here? He has to get out of the way, but unfortunately he can't really do much a whole lot here. He's probably going to be getting blue flags already. You can see on the left hand side of the screen the blue flag is showing as Zach kind of slides around turn 1 there, which is probably going to be frustrating Carlos Torres. He'll be getting dirty air from him, and that is Zach getting out of the way there initially anyway. Everyone else seems to be getting okay. Matthew Bassett driving straight through Zach there, and he gets the move on through Alejandro Herrera as well. And there's a yellow flag. We can't see for what just yet. I'm assuming that's just for the ghosted car, Zach. But here comes Matthew Bassett taking a dive into turn 6. Very unorthodox. Can end in tears very easily. A bit more contact into the entry of 8. Alejandro being overtaken as well by Panos and Ross. And now here comes Otto Snowfield arriving on the scene. Lots of action happening now. And Crystal further down the field overtaking Harrison Holmes. These drivers have all started overtaking each other in sector 2, which is very unusual. Hungary, a bit of banging there between Crystal Harrison, Vilzer and Carlson now going side by side into turn 13. All keep you relatively clean as well, it must be said. Good driving standards here. More space being given as Carlos Torres hits the fastest lap of the race. And Harrison Holmes with a better exit there than Vilzer at turn 14. But here comes Vilzer. Will he go left? Will he go right? Will he take the inside of red side? He goes, elects to take the inside line. There's a bit of a lock up there. Manages to hold the car in one piece. Not a whole lot of space given to Harrison, but these two are still fighting. And Vilzer looks to be coming out on top. Hold on a second though. Here comes Harrison Holmes on the inside into turn 2. Getting that move done. Carlos Torres almost being dropped by a second by Giovanni. Giovanni in rapid form here as Harrison gets another 3-second time penalty. Zach Viermak with another 3-second time penalty. Fair play for Zach for keeping on racing. A lot of people would just retire in the pits at this point. As we have 2 laps to go. Matthew Bassett all the way up to 5th. After starting in P15. After a disastrous Q2 session for him, which saw him DNF into turn 5, I think it was. Turn 5 or turn 3. Now here he is, rapidly closing in on Ennis. A bit of a wobble there, but it's okay as DRS finally gets enabled now. And here he goes, using that battery. Gets the move done. Ennis doesn't really fight it too much, but at that point, but is he coming back at him? It doesn't look like he can. Matthew now up to P4. Ennis knows that Matthew has a time penalty, so just wants to stick with him at this point. Well, they're sticking with him closely for sector 1 anyway. Bit of a gap now between Matthew and Ken, over 2 seconds. Further up the field, the battle for the P1 isn't over just yet, but Giovanni does have a lot more battery than Carlos, which will work in his favour when they get to DRS straight in just over half a lap's time. This is a yellow flag, and that looks to be Zach again, is it? Yeah, that is Zach, and he is gone. His day has ended at long last. Unfortunately for him, after being lapped by the field. Down to 13, so one driver will finish outside the points today. One finishing driver, should we say. And Carlos Torres will not get DRS here. Excuse me, so unless something major disaster happens for Giovanni, he will end up winning this race. Calais picking him with DRS, but I don't think he's just got enough. He's just too far away. He is gaining, but again, similar to the battle for P1, a disastrous move will have to happen for Carlos to not secure P2 today. Matthew Bassett really pushing on here with that 3-second penalty. can't seem to drop Ennis. And the yellow flag is 2 drivers have been caught up in a kerfuffle there. Vilzu and Carlson. Fortune then getting caught up in a skirmish right at the end of the race. That's a disaster for them. Hard to see what happened there now. I'm sure that will be a report given to the stewards. Mr. Kieran Purnell. And Giovanna will cross the line, looks like, as the winner of this race. He's been very clinical all race long. As Vilzu now, what is going on between these two? As William Carlson intentionally DNFs his car. But we won't focus on that for right now. Giovanna wins the race. Well done to you, sir. Ennis up to P4 due to the time penalties. Carlos Torres in P2. Kenny in P3. Otto Snowfield in P6. Matthew Bassett P5. Panos P7. Ross Smith P8. And Alejandro Hera in P9. Crystal in P10. Harrison Holmes and Brooks Rounder are finishers. Good stuff from all. It's Matthew Bassett gets driver of the day. So just a final confirmation here. Giovanni, Carlos, Cale, Ennis, Matthew, Otto, Panos, Ross, Alejandro, Crystal Renner are top 10. Harrison Holmes, Vilza, Carlson, Zach Viermak, Julian Peters and Raphael Billner round out the bottom 6. We'll just get the race director quite quickly now for anyone who needs it. And that will do this weekend's action in ERO. Tune in next Friday at 6 p.m. where we will be in Las Vegas for F5 with Lucas Safraniak and Spara Motley on the commentary booth. Thank you very much for watching and enjoy the rest of your Sunday.